So we're the generation that cracked the code. Becoming a millionaire is easier than it's ever been, and we're the generation that discovered it and shared it at mass to the point where there's 18 and 20-year-old finance bros that know they're going to be millionaires just off the basic principle of compound interest. If you're not into finance YouTube videos like myself, I'll break it down for you. The method is actually pretty simple. If you take your money at a young age and invest it into the stock market, by the time you hit retirement age, which is 65 in America, you are very likely statistically to become a millionaire. You don't have to be an expert at picking stocks or an expert in finance or really an expert in anything. You have to just start at a young age, as young as you possibly can. Now, with this being said, you invest into the S&P 500 or the Fortune 500, aka the 500 most profitable companies in America. You put your money into it, and over time it grows. The amount of money that you put into it really pales in comparison to the money that it turns into through time, which creates compound interest, which is essentially your money making money off of it being money, which makes and creates more money. Kind of like how your credit card can build up interest from not paying, and then the credit card fees get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of like that, except for instead of making a bigger debt, it starts working in your favor. But that's not the point of this video. Becoming a millionaire is easier than it's ever been, and we are the generation that cracked the code and kind of figured out, hey, we can all get rich. There's enough money for all of us. So what does that mean for our future? What does that mean for the economy? In a capitalistic society, someone has to lose. And if everyone or a really large percentage of 20 to 29-year-olds are invested and they're making their money and they're aware, somebody has to lose. For someone to become rich, a greater amount of people have to stay poor. And honestly, while I'm not a fan of it, I am going to play this game to win without, compromising my morals as much as I can. I would love it if every single person that watched this video, which most likely you already are into the stock market. You're into some level of finance, but I want to be that person that lets all my friends know the numbers and the statistics around it, and that it's actually a pretty safe bet that as long as Apple and Amazon continue to be profitable companies, you will continue to make money to the tune of you becoming a millionaire at or even before 65, depending on how much money or how early you start investing. I guess the question that I want to ask is, if so many people are going to become millionaires, and assuming that a millionaire or $1 million is still going to be enough to live off of and have some type of financial freedom, depending on how many years you want to live off of it, what does that mean for our generation? If we're going to be financially free, what do we do with our time aside from work all day, work for 40 years, work for 50 years, and then use the money in retirement? What are we going to do? What will we do to occupy ourselves? What will we do for our leisure? People travel and go on vacations and stuff, and that's pretty cool. The average family probably has a couple of vacations growing up, depending on what you define as average, right? But if there's going to be an entire generation with an excess of money, what exactly are we going to be doing, not just with our money, but with the time that we save by not having to work overtime 6 days out of the week and actually being there for our families, or the ones that decide not to have kids and you won't have to support a family? What are we going to be doing with that time? What type of innovations are we going to run into in the next 20 to 30 years when this generation honestly slows down and stops drinking C4s to go to the gym all the time and actually decide that we want to do something more purposeful? What does this type of thing lead to if everyone is just going to go around being a millionaire? Now, obviously, everyone does not have access to the same information, or everyone doesn't decide to consume this information. So everyone in this generation won't become a millionaire. But we have a larger group of millionaires than we already ever have in the history of the United States and history of the world. And I'm 26. My compound interest hasn't even started kicking in yet. So by the time I'm 50, 55, 60, there is going to be so many more millionaires than we've ever seen in this life before. Will $1 million quickly become nothing? Will $1 million still be sustainable? If everyone is financially free, what happens then? That's really a question that I'm asking to, I guess, myself and maybe anybody that's listening to this. But we really need to start thinking about what we would do for the rest of our lives if money wasn't a factor, because for a lot of people, that is going to become a reality based off of the information that you decided to act on when you were 21, 22, 23 years old and you started investing into the stock market. What are you going to do with your time when it doesn't have to be spent making money? For me personally, I love giving back to my community. I love spending my time with children, either educating or motivating them or doing something that's going to like productively contribute to their lives in my community, women and children, educating even other grown men. That's just what I have a passion for. Talking, making jokes, laughing, spending time with loved ones. These are the type of things that fuel me. But once we get past that, once we get past the spending time with friends and family, what happens then? This is something that takes a lot of time and serious consideration to know what you would do with the rest of your life if you didn't have to spend it earning a paycheck, and then actually fully fleshing out the idea so that if it's something you want to do bad enough, you can actually work your way towards where you won't have to work for a paycheck or work extreme hours for a paycheck, to where you can actually work on that thing that you say you would do if you didn't have to worry about paying bills. If you like it enough, if you want to be a genealogist enough and you care that much about your family's history, you can work your way into a position. Unfortunately, with this economy being the way it is here, it's going to be pretty difficult, but it is possible to work your way into a position where you don't have to waste away for 45 to 60 hours every week, and you can spend that time working, dusting off history and becoming a genealogist. You can go ahead and go for that thing that fuels you creatively, that fuels you purposely, fuels your spirit. And I'm just really excited to see what the future looks like for a bunch of people that statistically, unless we have another Great Depression, are going to become millionaires by likelihood of just consistently investing your money and then watching the returns year over year. And if you don't believe me about this whole thing that I'm saying, go watch any finance YouTube videos and look at the statistics and the articles that prove over the last 100 and I believe 15 years that you can get an 8% return on your money. And then once your money starts to compound, that it will grow exponentially. And if you decide to hop on that train, I'm glad that I could be the one to introduce you. But seriously, what would you do for the rest of your life if you didn't have to work another day for the rest of your life? It's a question that deserves some consideration. If you made it to the end of the video, I would appreciate it if you left a like and commented what you think, or really commented anything. I'll catch you on the next one.